Welcome to the Goodyear City Council meeting. We're excited to have you be a part of this important public process. Tonight, you will have the opportunity to address City Council on both non-agenda and agenda items. The agendas and the speaker request cards are located on the tables outside of council chambers. You must fill out a speaker card in order to address the City Council. Please hand in your completed card to the City Clerk before the start of the meeting. If the meeting has already begun, please hand it to any city staff. You may also check the "I do not wish to speak" option on the card. This allows you to still voice your opinion on an item on the record without having to speak. Public comment on a non-agenda item will take place during the citizen comment portion of the evening. These are items that don't appear on tonight's formal agenda. The City Clerk will call your name when it's time for you to speak. At that time, please approach the podium and state your name for the record. We ask that you speak clearly into the microphone. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes, and there is a timer visible from the podium. When the light changes from green to yellow, your time is coming to an end. When the light turns red, your time is up. Note that you may also choose not to speak if other speakers before you have said what you wanted to say. Shouting, cheering, and loud noises will not be tolerated, and violators may be removed for disrupting the meeting. Goodyear City Council meetings stream live on Facebook and YouTube, and online at goodyearaz.gov. Thank you for your participation in tonight's meeting.
I'd like to call to order the regular meeting on February 8th, 2021. Please join Councilman Hampton in the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Lord, thank you for today, Lord. I just thank you for everyone here that has come to see the process of government and how it works, Lord, and to take care of the city here, Lord. I just want to pray, Lord, for the city of Goodyear, the residents, and the staff, God. I want to pray that you'll give us wisdom, Lord, in our decision-making for the residents of Goodyear. I also want to thank you for your blessings on Goodyear, Lord, as we continue to grow and become an ever-changing community, God. I just pray to be with our military, our public safety, our police and fire, and the staff, Lord, as they continue to serve here and around the world. I thank you for your provision, and I just pray that you'll help us to continue to seek your direction in all that we do. In your name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Councilman Pizzillo will not be with us tonight, so I need a motion and a second to excuse him. Do I hear that motion? So moved.
Second.
I heard the motion from Councilman Campbell and the second from Vice Mayor Stipp. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Our city clerk will now give information on how to participate in tonight's meeting.
While the Goodyear City Council meetings are open to the public, the occupancy has been reduced to implement social distancing. Seating is generally available on a first-come basis, but meeting attendees will be cycled in and out if necessary to allow for speakers to speak on certain agenda items. If you wish to speak during a regular meeting, please complete a speaker's card so that we may ensure you are in the room for that item. Face masks are required and must be worn when moving throughout the building. Our residents still have several ways to address the council. They may submit their questions and comments to publiccomments@goodyearaz.gov, and during meetings, they can view the meetings using Facebook or YouTube. After the meetings are completed, they can also be viewed on YouTube. The public may always contact the mayor and council at any time by sending an email to gycouncil@goodyearaz.gov.
Thank you very much. Now is the time for citizens who would like to address the city council on a non-agenda item within the jurisdiction of the city council. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
All right. Is anybody else like to speak? All right, we'll get on with it. So let's go to the consent agenda. Will the city clerk please read consent agenda items 1 through 7 by title only, please?
Number 1, approval of minutes. Number 2, recommend approval of a request for Beverages and More Incorporated doing business as BevMo for an acquisition of control of a Series 9 liquor store located at 15405 West McDowell Road, Goodyear, Arizona 85338. Number 3, approve the final plat of Goodyear Civic Square Parcel A at Estrella Falls, subject to stipulations. Number 4, adopt resolution number 2021-2133, approving the declaration of easements, covenants, conditions, and restrictions for Civic Square, providing for authorization, direction, and an effective date. Number 5, approve the final plat for Curve at Estrella Commons, subject to stipulations. Number 6, approval of a termination and release of sewer easement and acceptance of an exclusive sewer line and access easement and associated with the Prologis development. Number 7, adopt the Public Safety Personnel Retirement System fiscal year 2022 pension funding policy.
Thank you. Does anyone on the council wish to move an item from the consent agenda? Then could I please have a motion, a second, to approve items 1 through 7? Do I hear that motion?
Second.
Heard a motion from Vice Mayor Stipp and a second from Councilman Kano. Roll call vote.
Vice Mayor Stipp?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo? Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Hampton?
Aye.
Councilmember Kano?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
The motion carries.
All right, in business, I'd like to remind council to wait for the motion a second before discussion. The first item of business is to consider adopting the FY 2022 financial policies. I didn't see you, and I thought, oh, he's coming forward. The Finance Director, Doug Sandrum's presenting. Doug?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I was wearing my camouflage suit today. That's why you didn't see me coming up. Tonight we are here to discuss the adoption of the fiscal year 2022 financial policies. These policies were reviewed with council last week at your work session along with our 5-year general fund forecast. Policies are reviewed on an annual basis, and when there are changes, they get brought forward to council for modification and adoption. The last modification was February of 2020. The 2 major changes to the policy are increasing the amount of construction sales tax dollars that would be used for operations from $5.1 million to $5.6 million, following the process that we have done for the last few years of the lowest 5-year average the last 10 years of collection, so consistent with past practice. The other is adding in a hierarchy of using restricted funds first and moving on over to the least restrictive funds as our last source of revenue. And then after that, we have a few modifications to match with practice on federal grants, strat plan in aligning our our asset replacement programs with practice. All of these were discussed in the last week's council session, and with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Would anybody in the audience like to speak? Can I have a motion, a second, to adopt the financial policies as presented in attachment 1? Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
I heard a motion from Councilman Hampton and a second from Councilman Campbell. Open for council discussion? It was a good presentation last week. All right, let's vote on it then. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. The next item on business is consider approving the preliminary plat for Estrella Parcel 11.11. And Senior Planner Alexis Latensky will present. Alex?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Good evening, council members. This preliminary plats are now typically on the consent agenda.
Easier to pull that microphone a little bit closer. Thank you.
Preliminary plats we've now put on the consent agenda. This one has changed language in the stipulations, different than what was presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So we did pull it off of the consent agenda to business to present it to council since there was a change. At the commission meeting, the applicant did request clarification in some of the stipulations. So nothing of substance changed in the stipulations. It was just clarification taking out some of the confusing words. So I just have a brief presentation on the preliminary plat for you. 11I1 is part of the Lucero planned area development designated for low, medium density residential. It's this little box in red. There's approximately 9 acres in the parcel. 38 lots are proposed, 3 open space tracts, and those lots are proposed to be 47 by 90 feet. This is the landscaping plan, so you can see this little pocket park that is within the community. Just a little street connection map. So off of Hillside Drive, the main spine within Lucero, you can see Sendero would connect to this parcel. And then with these future developments, you would have 2 points of access to Sendero Drive, which is this green squiggly line. It does meet the zoning ordinance, PADs, and engineering standards. Like I said, Planning and Zoning Commission did hear the item on January 13th and recommended approval. And the applicant, I believe, is on the phone, and I can answer any questions as well.
All right, thank you. Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Would anybody like to speak? Well, then can I have a motion and second to approve the preliminary plat for Australia parcel 11.11, subject to stipulation? I have that motion?
So moved.
A second? Second. I heard a motion from Councilman Loretano and a second from Councilman Kano. Open for council discussion. All right, let's vote for it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. We're on number 10, to consider authorizing staff to proceed with the Estrella Highlands annexation. Planning Manager Katie Wilkin will be presenting.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Tonight, as you indicated, Katie's going to do a presentation as well.
Is it Katie? Your voice
Yeah,
has changed in
yes.
24 hours.
Adaptability is a core value,
I
right?
love it. I love it.
Katie's going to talk about the specifics of the initial application. However, before we do that, I just wanted to provide Council a high-level overview and context of the annexation process, just so you can kind of have that in your mind as Katie gets into the specifics of this particular annexation request. So annexation in Arizona is very much a methodical and state-prescribed process. In addition to all of the requirements in state law, which I'm just going to touch very briefly on, in 2001, Council adopted an annexation policy which provides staff some guidance on how to process these and the things that we should advise Council on. And all of this is with the understanding and effort to provide Council with the information so you all as a body can make the informed decision as to whether or not to annex properties or territories into the city limits or not. So with regard to the state statute requirements, there are many different parameters that a property or territory must meet. And just a couple of examples include obviously being contiguous to the city limits. There are certain size and shape requirements of a given property or territory. We cannot create county islands associated with annexation. We must also annex county right-of-way. And so we sort of inherit that obligation as property is annexed. And then also when annexation occurs, when Council approves it, there needs to be an infrastructure plan so that we have an understanding of the level of infrastructure needed to support the development or the property within 10 years. So that has to be defined, and that's all of some of the highlights of the state law requirements. The overall process for annexation kind of flows like this. And again, this is super high level. I'm not getting into the weeds, but just so Council has some context. The initial aspect is that an application is filed, and then we provide Council with an impact analysis and seek authorization to proceed following the state law requirements. And that's exactly what we're here doing tonight. So we're kind of on step 2. We're seeking tonight, after Katie gets through the presentation, authorization to move forward with this particular annexation request. There's blank petitions that are filed with the county recorder's office, and then there's a state mandated 30-day waiting period. Within that last 10 days of the 30-day waiting period, there's a public hearing that's required to be held by council. And so we have to give notice to those property owners and many others, including even the chairman of the Board of Supervisors, for example. After the public hearing is held, then signatures can begin to be collected on the petitions. And there is a requirement of those signatures. So in order for the annexation to proceed for council consideration, at least 50% of the owners within the geography or the territory and 50% of the value of the real and personal property have to consent to the annexation. So it's a two-pronged test. So there's a lot of work that goes, and I'm not going to get into the details, but there's a lot of work that goes into dealing with the, understanding the value of the different properties and tabulating it, ensuring we're meeting these legal thresholds. So assume all of those requirements get met, then the annexation request comes to council for your adoption for your final adoption. And at that time is when we will also present the infrastructure, the state mandated infrastructure plan. So that's just a kind of a super high level overview, thumbnail, if you will, of the annexation process. Typically, the next question somebody's going to ask is, well, how long does that take? If all of the property owners consent to the annexation, we're probably looking at around 6 or 7, 8 months or so, depending on how the calendar falls, because there's certain statutory requirements to give notice and all of these other things. So that's typically kind of what the process would end up looking like. And if you don't have any questions for me on this portion, I'll be turning it over to Casey.
Any questions? Yes, Laura?
Christopher, I'm curious, who gets the petition signed for that process?
So in this particular annexation request, the property owners are petitioning, so they would do that.
Okay.
If there was a geography that we would actually we would give notice and say, please come sign the petitions. We don't really want to knock on doors or anything of that nature.
All right, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Brandon?
And I just wanted to verify, looking through the notes and everything, it says that this does not, what was the word you used? Not commit the city council to approve the annexation. So after all that, it comes back to city council, and then we would say yay or nay.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Molly?
I'm sorry, excuse me. If one property owner does not want to come alongside, can the other 14 or 13 or 12, whatever it is, can they move forward if they
So
wanted to?
yes, ma'am. So it goes back to that. At least 50% of the property owners within the
Okay.
geography. So one person
Can't hold it up.
probably could not hold it up, correct?
Okay, good, thank you.
Is all the acreage the same with them all? I mean, is this broken up with the same
So-
amount of acre?
So on this particular application, Mayor, Katie's going to talk about the property ownership and how that's organized in this particular
So are we
area.
looking like the 16 that originally started in the West Valley to build the community?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Okay, so there were 16 at the beginning in the West Valley when we had all those.
Oh, in West Goodyear.
Yes,
Yeah.
so,
right.
yeah. And
Mhm.
so there was give and take, and some left, right, and some stayed, and that process took a long time, too. I'd be curious to know how long that took.
Sure, yes, I think, and Katie can probably illustrate that. I think West Goodyear's been going on for excess of a dozen years.
Okay.
Quick question.
Sherry?
So Wally brought up the thing, if one can't hold it up, if one doesn't want to go with the other, whatever, several, then does that one just not, that parcel just not go in, or how's that work?
You cannot create a county island. So if it would create a county island to leave them out, they cannot be left out.
So they
have
would
to
come in even if they kind of get outvoted? Okay.
Correct.
So the other thing is, so as they are starting to develop it, and my verbiage is not the best, but I'm going to try and break through this. And so out of the 16, let's see, number 12 says, no, I don't want that, and I don't like the way the water line's running. So now I don't think I want that. So I remember we had water line, because the water line wouldn't reach one of them, and then they had something in between that didn't want to do anything. So So we'll go through that same kind of
That,
process?
Mayor, Council, that could be an option moving forward as far as what the development, how this development is going to take place. But if I may, if I
May.
could ask Mayor
be
and Council, let Katie go through her presentation, because I think what she's going to say is going to answer a lot of your questions. And if it doesn't, we're here to answer
Is that all
anything
right?
that you have.
Nobody else has a question like I did. All right, go ahead, Katie.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. So again, it has been some time since we've done an annexation of this type. You may remember we've done some right-of-way annexations, which have a different process. But it's been, like 14, 13 years since we've done an annexation.
Long time. I've been here during that time.
Long time.
So as Christopher stated, per adopted policy, we do need your authorization before we can move forward, but this is also an opportunity for council to give staff and the applicant both a heads up of any questions you may have, concerns, so we can research that information and be prepared as we come to you in the future. And I do want to warn you that tonight's presentation is very high level. We do not have detailed information quite yet in many of these items. We're just trying to provide an overview. So, I don't.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the map. Brandon?
I was going to ask a question on the map, but you might answer it here in a minute. I was just curious if the blue mailing address blue, or because I know some of those areas are not technically in Goodyear. So up against, for example, up against Rainbow Valley Road, that neighborhood is not in Goodyear technically. And I don't think that blue section that shoots over to Tut Hill is either. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify what the blue was, but thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so the subject property is located near Tut Hole Road and Queen Creek Road, and it's shown in orange. The blue area is the current city incorporated limits. So as you can see, the property touches on two sides, the incorporated limits. And as Christopher mentioned, there are size requirements, and we've already done that initial analysis, and the annexation does meet those initial size requirements. And then you can see the yellow is Avondale incorporated area, and the purple is Buckeye incorporated area. And this area is in the Goodyear planning area, which it needs to be considered for incorporation into the city of Goodyear.
Bill?
Katie, can you, just for clarity purposes, tonight, your only role is to seek authorization to continue having a discussion.
Yes.
So just so everyone is clear on that, I think there was, no offense, Christopher, but I think you confused the daylights out of everybody sitting up here on what we were doing tonight. And so we're just seeking the ability to go ahead and let you continue to work with the applicant on making an annexation decision.
I agreed with Bill, but if there's any underlying, like I gave, that have, then this is what we're here for. Even though it wasn't designed for that, I don't feel like I want to push something back until the next meeting, So I will continue. And if you feel the way Bill does, you don't have to say anything either. It's just
I just want to make sure that everybody understands what we're
the
doing.
purpose.
Right.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. That's correct. And just to clarify, the reason we do this is because the next step in the process is to file a copy of the annexation map and the blank petition with the county recorder. So that kind of starts the public process. So, in years past, council adopted this policy of, hey, come talk to us first before we start notifying the public about this, so that if there's major concerns we want you to work out before you go to the public, then we can do that. So that's why we're here before you tonight, and that's what we mean too, that if you give us authorization tonight, that doesn't commit you to annex the area. That is a separate decision.
Okay.
So this is a map of the annexation area. It extends from 203rd Avenue on the west border to 187th on the east boundary, and it extends from Willis Road on the north to a half-mile south of Queen Creek Road. And as you can see from the aerial photo, it is mostly vacant and agricultural uses. It's 1,250 acres. To the south, the area you can see that's not agriculture, that's state land, Arizona State Land Department land, and that is in the city of Goodyear. And then the property to the east is also already in the city of Goodyear. There is, you can see, an operational dairy. It's not within the annexation area, so that would remain in the county, but it is adjacent to the area.
Right. Sherry?
On the orange map, there was a little piece that looked like a little, like, almost a little Pac-Man piece there, but it's not, it's hard to tell. Is that not in the annexation area?
Thank you. So the applicant does plan on moving forward with a rezoning application, and that basically the applicant has control of all this land without that little piece. However, because we cannot create a county island, it has to be included in the annexation. So this original vicinity map is from the applicant's original application, so I'm sorry for the confusion. I should have pointed that out. So that wouldn't be part of the Estrella Highlands development that would get rezoning moving forward, but it would be annexed into the city. It's a single property owner that's in that little area. The applicant can probably provide more information, but they're trying to reach out to them. And so far, it sounds like they may be neutral. They may not sign the petition, but it sounds like they may not object either.
Yeah.
But we'll learn more as we go forward.
As long as you're bringing
Bill?
us, if it's okay, Katie, as long as you're bringing us geography, can you go to the next? Is it parcel that number 10 on the slide? Is that the Terrasante that we did about a year ago?
This,
At 3.
you know, and let me see if
If everyone remembers the conversation we had to make the connection to Estrella, this has got a direct link to that.
Thank you. So this is Rainbow Valley Ranch, which was zoned, what is it, 2 years ago, maybe now?
That's what I'm saying. So
Sometime.
that's the one we spent all that time
Yeah,
on.
and then to the north is a development called Terrasante, and that they don't have an active
Got it.
application right now, but they've been talking about
So it
coming
was
back
10,
in.
the area 10. I used the wrong name, but it's the area 10 that we were
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
so that kind of puts it in perspective for everybody then.
So that council adopted annexation policy, as you can see listed, has several criteria that staff is supposed to use to evaluate it, the annexation. What I'm going to focus on tonight is the first one, which is the ability of the city to provide basic service in a timely manner. I'm just going to hit on 3 of the major components of that: streets and transportation, emergency service, and water wastewater. I do want to say, as Christopher stated, state statute does require that we have a plan to provide service to an area within 10 years after annexation. In general, the applicant's plan for that is to create a pre-annexation development agreement that would run concurrently with this annexation request and then be considered by council on the same evening that the annexation is considered. Similar to development agreement that was done with the rezoning. This is slightly different since we're annexing, not rezoning. And so that's why we haven't started the process of all that detailed development agreement points. So starting with streets and transportation, I just have some pictures so you can get an idea of the existing conditions. This is Queen Creek Road. Looking east, this bridge is Rainbow Valley Road, so you can see that there is a bridge crossing over the Waterman Wash near the property. However, Queen Creek Road and the majority of the other roads in the area is a dirt road. This is an area, this is a private street right now, and and you might have seen this in the aerial if you look closely, there is some agricultural stuff out there, including there's some abandoned mobile homes. One of the mobile homes did look occupied to us when we visited the site, and we're hearing it's not permanent residents, it's some of the
Transients.
agricultural uses that live there, and so we're hearing from the applicant that upon annexation, they would vacate the site so there wouldn't be residents on site upon annexation. But there are some structures and materials out there that would need to be cleaned up. Tut Hill Road does run through a portion of the property, and it is a paved 2-lane road. And just to clarify, this particular picture, this is part of the dairy, and that is out, again, just to repeat, that is outside of the annexation proposal. This was just the picture I found, just to give you an idea of what Tut Hill looks like. Now, a portion of Tut Hill is right-of-way, so at least a quarter mile of it, the city would have to take over maintenance of this road. And then I do want to note, although Tut Hill is paved, at the Waterman Wash, it is an at-grade crossing. So if there was a storm event, it's possible it wouldn't be passable for emergency vehicles. This is I'm sorry, it's a somewhat difficult to read map we got from the county. We were trying to get information from them about what the current right-of-way is, what they're taking care of. And it appears that there's just this quarter mile of Tut Hill that's dedicated right-of-way that we would then annex and maintain. However, although there's no right-of-way along Queen Creek, the county has indicated they're doing some maintenance of Queen Creek as a courtesy. We're not sure for who, but it's likely that if somebody asked the county maintain it, somebody would ask the city to maintain it afterwards. So we're trying to get more information about that. But again, road maintenance could become a request or something we need to work out even before the property develops. For emergency services, the 2 closest fire stations right now are Fire Station 182, Fire Station 186, which is under construction, and then Fire Station 182. And again, while there's no development, we don't anticipate a huge burden on the emergency services, but of course anything can happen. It would be in our city service area. We would be responsible for responding to emergency services, and the roads may or may not handle some of the emergency vehicles. In terms of water and wastewater, one of the most important things is when you annex the territory into the city, you're also annexing it into your water service area. And again, the rezoning and annexation decisions are separate decisions. So when we first annex it, we have to have enough water to serve as it's zoned today, which is agricultural zoning. Then when they rezone it, they would need to show that there's additional water for whatever they're zoning to. The applicant does have an extension of an analysis of assured water supply, which my understanding means there is available physical groundwater, and they also indicate that that is enough physical groundwater to serve the development after rezoning. However, there are still some unknowns that we need to work through. The quality of that water is unknown, and also because it's groundwater, that means replenishment or recharge is necessary, and how that will happen is unknown. So that concludes my pieces of the presentation. Shane Alleman, representing the applicant, is here as well. And I know we have some additional slides that show some of the proposed zonings if you want to go through it. But again, right now we're seeking authorization to move forward with the statutory process. It does not commit City Council to annex the area. And then we're also looking for any guidance from council on anything you want us to continue looking for. And again, if I can just remind you, so that we'll be back before you, if you authorize it, we'll be back before you 2 more times, one in a public hearing to gather public input, and then one for the final decision. Thank you.
Are there any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
All right, would anybody in the audience like to speak? Please come forward.
Mayor, members of the council, for the record, Shane Allman with Tiffany Bosco, 2525 East Camelback Road, in Phoenix, 85016. Want me to say that again?
Yes, please.
For the record, Shane Allman with Tiffany and Bosco, 2525 East Camelback Road, Phoenix, Arizona, 85016. Thank you, Katie, for that wonderful presentation. I did bring some slides, but I didn't plan on spending a lot of time with them. We are at the beginning of the process right now. Although I will say that there's been a lot of time and effort spent with my client and David White here, who represents, along with Rick Cole, most of the ownership groups that are there. And then there's a couple other families that they have come together, and we're moving forward as one body with the annexation. Shortly here, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we will be submitting a PAD along with a development agreement, which will run concurrently with that. We feel that's very important so that we can work with staff on what the details of that development is, also addressing many of those important concerns of infrastructure, traffic, fire services, all of those things. So that will be as the entire package as we move forward. But wanted to thank staff for the wonderful information and working with us. They've been great to work with as a group and helping us move us along on this process. And we're confident we'll be able to bring a nice quality, comprehensive development here down to the Rainbow Valley area. So with that, we're happy to address any questions that you may have. Like I said, we've got David White here who could help answer any other questions that you might have.
Great, thank you. Well, let's go to motion. Can I have a motion, a second, to authorize staff to proceed with Astoria Highlands annexation with the action not committing the council to annex the land into the city of Goodyear? Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Second. I heard a motion from Councilman Campbell and the second from Councilman Loretano. Open for council discussion. Councilman Loretano.
Yes, thank you very much for bringing that forward, and thank you, Katie, for the program. It seems like all the issues are on everybody's radar, and you guys are working them out and to see, make sure everything's taken care of. And Katie knows those issues are important, so I do appreciate that. So I'm supporting. I think it'll be a good move forward for that area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Campbell?
I was surprised to see that it was surrounded all by the city. I appreciate you having that map because when you visualize it, you don't realize that there's so many other outlines, and to see where Avondale is and to see where Buckeye is, because if we don't do it, they're going to come in. And so I appreciate you doing that. And I'm looking forward to hearing you come back to us and give us an update on what this really is going to entail for us to do if we do it.
Councilman Hammond?
Yeah, also, I appreciate all of the infrastructure type questions. I guess, paid special attention to. I've been down this area a lot, actually. So I would just be curious, the entrance to this area with going through that dairy there, it's their private properties. I don't know if they'll ever be able to widen that since it's the dairy's property, or just how you're going to get to this area as well. I know that abandoned tree farm is also right, I think, in the middle there as well. I think where that square is also, and all the way up to the wash. So yeah, just the things you talked about. I'd be interested to see the water, the access, and how it's going to fit into the rest of the city. So, all right, thank you.
Councilman Kano?
It was interesting at our retreat, we touched on the topic of annexation and said, oh, that's a big, broad topic. Let's address it situationally. And now here it is already the following week. I have to say that it's helpful to see how this parcel is in relationship to the Rainbow Valley Ranch that we had discussed, so that we can see that it's all connected and all together. I really admire the pioneering vision to want to really go down south where our destiny is. That's where we're going to grow, and looking to see what all that you intend to bring. It's going to be interesting. I'm just curious because it was mentioned in the council report about just how problematic it is when you're dealing with so many multiple owners in terms of infrastructure and liability and all of that.
Thank you. If I can we did have a map, and I'm sorry, I didn't have it as part of my presentation because it is a little more related to the rezoning, which technically hasn't been submitted yet, but the applicant is letting us know what's going on. But just so you can see better, the darker color is the area that we're talking about tonight, and then this is Rainbow Valley, which you considered, I think it's been almost 2 years now. Mm-hmm. And then this is the Terrasante, which we anticipate that they'll come in soon too for consideration. And then I did mean to clarify, great question, because I think there's two different issues we raised in the staff report. Oops. There are multiple property owners on the property, and when you're, creating a development agreement, it does create concerns. The applicant is confident we're going to be able to work this through this issue because, as you can probably see if you read through it, they're LLCs, and they have the authority to represent these LLCs. Now, we need the detailed document to go through that, but again, we will go through that. So we're hopeful it's not quite as complicated as it appears as well, but we do need every entity to sign on the development agreement. So it does make it a little bit challenging to work through that, but I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Councilmember Kino, Mayor, that's a very important question, and it's one that the Estrella Highlands Group has spent a lot of time on. One of the things you don't see is that there's, I think, about 13, 14 entities listed up there. About 3/4 of them, David White and Rick Cole, have managing authority of that, so they have signature authority on all of those. And then there's 2 or 3 other families, the Lyons family, the Lindsay Meyer family, that they are in close contact with, that they have agreements with for them to move forward as one body. And that's really how we're moving forward. We're moving forward as one body, one entity with all of these applications. And we know that that's a very important thing. You don't want, disparate 14 different property owners going every which way. And it may look that way with how many entities are out there, but we are moving forward as one body and one group with the applications.
Your report was well done. It really answered a lot of questions. But I still go back to it's very similar to what we worked with before. When you have that many people, I know they didn't want me to say it, but it's true. And I just want the people that are listening that we make a successive one. All right, so we have something to compare to that many people working on a project is very good. So it sounds like, yes. I thought I was talking, excuse me. Go ahead, Bill.
It's okay. Katie, can you go back to your presentation and then to the slide that shows where our planning area is?
Is this one?
Well, sort of.
Yeah, no, pull out. It was that one, but it was the one that it was way zoomed out.
Sorry.
Like slide 2 or 3. It was very early.
Why I'm having some problems with my mouse. There.
That one. On to the west, where Buckeye comes in,
Yes.
where that orange is, that is the start of our planning area, correct?
Yes.
Sorry, the purple.
Thank you. I think it's 203rd. There's actually, this area here is kind of a island of, it's not in either Goodyear or Buckeye's planning area. And I think it might extend a little. I'm not sure that exact boundary,
But the concept of a planning area is so that a jurisdiction cannot enter into someone else's planning area.
Correct.
So as we talked about the areas between Estrella and Mobile, if we've identified a planning area, we basically control that corridor or that land area. So for everybody to understand, not just this council, but anyone listening, when we talk about planning areas, that's an important component when we talk about zoning of who can get to it and who cannot get to it. For me, this is just a natural extension of what we previously did and where we're going to try to continue to extend the area that we have in Estrella Mountain Ranch, to continue to expand that and allow people to enjoy that area. It's beautiful out there. If that's what you like for me, I'm very happy living in the condensed part of the city. But so I think when we talk about planning areas, those are important pieces to continually remind ourselves of as well. But I think this is a good project.
Any other comments? Are you ready to vote on this then? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I think we're already at the end. It's amazing, isn't it? It's only 6:43. Great. Council, do you have any reports or accommodations or events or anything you'd like to talk about tonight? All right, then, City Manager, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, I wanted to let our public know that we do have an election upcoming on proposed charter changes on March 9th. Publicity pamphlets have begun arriving in homes that have a registered voter, and ballots will be mailed on Wednesday, February 10th. Ballots must be returned by March 9th, and City Hall will serve as a ballot replacement center during normal business hours beginning on Monday, March 1st, and including special hours on Saturday, March 6th. The public is invited to a virtual public meeting on Wednesday, February 24th at 10 a.m. on these proposed charter changes. If someone is unable to attend, a recording of the public meeting will be available on the city's website afterwards. Please visit www.goodyearaz.gov/elections. Next, I wanted to mention that the city offices will be closed for President's Day on Monday, February 15th. Emergency fire, police services, and sanitation services will operate as normal, and city offices will reopen at 8 a.m. on Tuesday, February 16th. Thank you.
Great.